Welcome to Earthlight Cafe Podcast. I'm Sienna.
And I'm Senna.
And we are going to be talking about, the title is You Are a Divine Creator. What are you creating in 2021?
Yeah, we are so excited. We have our first guest on this podcast. Her name is Cha Wilde. She is a singer, songwriter, music producer, and yoga healer. She has a background in theology, photography, filmmaking. She is currently learning how to DJ, hosting yoga and ecstatic dance gatherings in her studio. She's based in Seattle, Washington. She's also offering online yoga classes, coaching other artists, and preparing to release her new album, Warm Enough to Be Barefoot.
Cute.
I love that. Her music is inspired by the wilderness, the divine feminine, psychedelics, chakras, fantasy, and magic. I had the pleasure of meeting Cha yesterday when I was picking up some belongings at a friend's house, and the divine energy just came to be to speak about, we're doing a podcast and this is what we're talking about. And she's like, pick me! I have some great things to share. So I'm super excited. We'll dive into the energetic update, and then we're going to speak about how are we the divine creators of our own realities and essentially our effect on the collective and this earth. So a lot of that also is our childlike creativity being a beautiful source and one of the most potent powers in the universe. And so we'll be discussing that today. And we'll be ending with just some reflection on 2020 and some intention setting, and also offering some prompts for your reflection, some ceremony ideas of just honoring your year, and we will dive in. Yeah. All right. Well, first let's go ahead and before we get into the energetic updates, I'd love to let Cha say a big hello and anything that you have to say to welcome. Thank you so much for being
Hello, thank you. Actually, I really like that. Thank you so much for being.
Yeah. As soon as I said that, I was like, yeah, I love that.
It's a nice greeting. I think I'll use that from now on. Yeah, this feels very serendipitous or synchronistic. So like we said before, I've been walking around thinking how this coming year, I'm really excited to be on other people's podcasts.
Yes.
And to step into other people's worlds rather than always crafting my own. Like I'm always creating things, and so I'm kind of on an adventure now to be like, what are you guys creating? Can I get in there and see and share? Yeah. So that's what I'm really excited about, is to like learn from whatever you're about to say on this podcast and then participate. So thank you for letting me come in.
Yes.
Yeah, I really do feel the connection is coming. Like, that is something that's been really downloading with me, is connect, build your tribe, build the people that you're around, the friendships, the families, like get to know others. So I'm totally in a line with that, Cha. It feels absolutely truth that's coming. I think it's because we've all been so combined, right? We're all like, hello, hi, how you doing, stranger?
Yeah.
It's like when we have things taken away, we realize the value of them.
Absolutely.
So the isolation heightening, not like, geez, I miss these events that I went to, or I miss these little things. There's lots of things to miss, but I see like the number one thing is I miss connection. It's like a deeper, like, this is missing and it's not acceptable that it's missing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely agree with that.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
What would you like to step
I was just
into?
gonna also touch on that. Yeah, in numerology, 2020 was a year of it was really our foundation, and in so many ways we saw a dismantling of foundation. Yes. And but what's also really great too was it was an opportunity to rebuild our own foundation internally. And we're going to be seeing this more and more globally as we've opened our eyes and have this new awakened energy. So many beautiful souls and lights all around the world have been breaking into this new consciousness, this new level of possibility, reality, and just a new timeline and truth that we can shift into all together collectively.
Yeah.
And this new paradigm. And so all the seeds that we've planted in our 4 foundational year, what's so beautiful is we get to see some of those things finally manifest. And, those seeds are starting to sprout over this next year. And we're going to have a big shift in perspective. Our 5-year 2021. So when you add up the numbers, so 2 and 1 and 0.
Number
Yeah.
5.
So I guess this is actually a good segue. So our energetic update. So we technically started Age of Aquarius earlier in the year, but as we've had this great conjunction last week, which was so powerful, so much fun. Oh gosh.
Did you feel that, Cha? Did you feel any energetic?
Oh, yeah. I had a shitstorm.
Hey, they'll throw anything at you, right?
So we had our 2 biggest planets in our solar system, Saturn and Jupiter. They came conjunct, which they hadn't been visible and the closest that they've been in over 800 years.
Yeah.
And so they were at 0 degrees Aquarius. So that means that they have shifted officially into the age of Aquarius. And so now the only other planet, questionable planet, Pluto, in our solar system will be officially in the age of Aquarius in 2023. But these big entities of our energy and conscious influences, we have them officially in age of Aquarius. So this beautiful conjunction that we got to experience on solstice last Monday. Nope, Monday. It was this. What day is it?
Nope.
It was last Monday.
It was last Monday.
Oh my God.
And time is irrelevant.
Well, we're hanging out in the 40 right now, so
yeah.
It's fine. Anyway, okay. So what's this age of Aquarius? It's a new upbringing and leveling up of humanitarian, it's technology, it's this new age, this, as I was just describing. And something that we're experiencing this past week as well is that Sun and Mercury has moved into Capricorn.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the time that things are getting real. Our spiritual work, especially starseeds, light workers, people that are bringing their light and channels online,
Mm-hmm.
it's getting real. This is where we're grounding. Capricorn is all about being practical and in the physical realm. So we're bringing our higher self into the physical more and more each and every day. And tomorrow we're going to be experiencing a full moon in Capricorn, December 29th. And so this is going to be bringing up a lot of emotional pressure. Maybe some child patterns are coming up to a peak. And the question around this full moon and great reflection is, are you ready to become your most powerful self?
Cool.
Yeah. And overall, all these incredible happenings in 2020, so many alignments. Oh my God, we haven't even talked about the solar eclipse that happened as well.
There was a lot.
There's been a lot happening. It's been one for the history books for sure. But a question that we can ask ourselves, and that we'll talk a little bit later on this podcast as well, is how can you maximize this gateway of light? The conjunction that we experienced last week was this gateway of light. And in my own meditations, I've just been like feeling it. And it's just been just a really wonderful, just been getting wonderful downloads, and things have been moving through too. So things have been coming up, and I've been having certain triggers that I've had to release as well. So totally makes sense if you're having a shit storm as well. But we'll talk a bit about how we can maximize this gateway of light, these new timelines and templates that are becoming available and are online for us now.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I think that that's a really great segue to Cha. I would love to ask you, is there anything that calls to you that you think would be good for the full moon? Like any questions that come to you that would feel in alignment for the collective? No pressure, my darling.
Yeah, curveball.
I know.
I just take that silence for a second to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Based on what you just said about power, I'm feeling a question rising up in myself that is, what do you need to let go of so that there's room for that power rather than accumulating?
Yeah.
Like, I want more power, I want more. It's actually empty out, so there's space for the power.
Yes.
Like spaciousness.
Yeah, and that's so relevant to, that's interesting. That's so relevant to our society's mindset that we're shifting out of, right? Because the previous mindset was we never have enough power. We have never enough. And we never like whatever. And so then we had to start shifting, and we still are, of course, of the feeling of reflecting on like what we do have and appreciating what we have, and then looking at the things that we have and saying, well, does this thing represent me anymore, or do I need to let it go to add something else in new that can, it's all in the same power. None of it has left us or like come back to us or anything like that. It's all there. It just needs like a little igniting, right? So I love that.
Yeah.
That's a great.
Yeah.
I'm also seeing a vision of a beach or a field or like an open space. I've been really called to open spaces recently. And it's because they have, well, in that space, there's space to stretch out, space to take up space. And so that feeling of like discovering just how much power you have, you need space to let it expand. And I often think of dragons, and a dragon in a little cage. Any animal in a cage might not realize how wide its wingspan is because it never gets to expand the wings. So it's not until you take it to the open space and you're like, okay, little dragon, like you're in a field, like figure out just how powerful you are now. So
that's cool.
That's why I think of the space and letting go. It's like let go of the cage so you can go into open space and feel that power.
Yeah.
That's the movie I've been watching with my toddlers.
Oh, we all, hopefully, I mean, I definitely know that, but I'm also a nanny, so there's that. Yes, that's beautiful. I love that. That's really cool. I've been really attracted to beaches too. Recently, my visions have been a lot of beaches.
I was just at the beach.
My witch group has been meeting up in the beach and my visions. Like we all energetically just meet up and have our circle there. Yeah. So that's been really nice. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So I think this is actually a great segue. We're talking about this divinity within us, our power, and creating space for it, and also, essentially dreaming up our reality and tapping into what it is that we are ready to, let go of, release, and what seeds or what we're ready to pour more attention into. So something that came up when we were talking, when I was thinking about, and we were talking about like what to do this podcast topic on, a big thing that came up for me over this past couple weeks has been this creativity, and especially our how the childlike creativity, that pure joy and the undoubtable like faith and belief and truth and love that a child, and that innocence that a child can encompass, and that light that they bring is one of the most potent universal forces. And that is, I love, by the way, before we started, we did a little meditation just to sync up, and Sienna invited in and offered us to invite in our inner children. And I love that. Immediately I saw just this blue light just glow, and she's just in me, and she's like, yeah, let's create, let's dance, let's play, and let's just shine our light. So I'm really happy to bring some play into this too.
Yeah.
I recently did a child creativity healing temple meditation that Shaman Derek, we've mentioned him before in a previous podcast, had offered, and it was just a really gorgeous just meditation of remembering what we used to do when we were children. What have we forgotten or left back then? And maybe touching in with our inner children, like what is it that we can bring and into our daily lives now?
Yeah. You know what's really funny?
That? Go for it.
Is I'm really, for a while, I was super nerdy about entrepreneurship stuff. So I would just follow all the self-help books of entrepreneur stuff. And one of the biggest questions you would always get on all their podcasts, all their books, everything of that manner, is that question where it's like, well, when you were a kid, if you can think back to when you were a kid, what got you excited to do? What did you want to do back then? And imagine that feeling that you had back then. Where did it resonate? Where did it come from? It may, like for me, I have an earlier one, but the one that comes up to mind right now is like, I loved selling chocolate bars, in high school, in junior high. So they would have chocolate bar sales to make for choir so that we could go on a field trip. And I would get really competitive and really into it. And I would trade. Like if I was selling more of a chocolate bar than somebody else, then I would go to them and be like, let's just trade these chocolate bars so that we can sell. And then whoever made the most chocolate bar sales got a reward at the end. And so that was always really exciting for me. And so when I asked that question, I was like, well, I don't want to go selling chocolate bars per se. But what it did for me was it allowed me to connect with strangers. It allowed me to kind of get out of my comfort zone and like try to promote something that was really exciting, which was supporting my choir. And I absolutely loved my choir. And it allowed me to kind of get creative and switch it up and stuff. And so that's kind of funny that those align with the entrepreneurship and with the spirituality. I feel like that just makes sense, but also for somebody that maybe doesn't put those two and two together, it's all correlating.
I love that. So. Also, your child's like a boss.
Thanks. So maybe that'd be fun. What Cha, do you have any like childhood memory of like a moment in your childhood that you felt just super aligned or awesome feeling? I know.
Yeah, I've got quite a few. And I spend a lot of time with my inner children. There's many of them, not just one.
Oh, cool.
Really?
How intriguing.
And and it's when you said that this podcast episode was going to explore inner children, or the inner child, that's when I was like, I would like to be participating, because this concept is fascinating to me. My memory that's coming up first is so I'm a writer, and I saw Bridget Jones's Diary when I was 12. And you guys know that movie?
I don't.
I know of it. I don't think I ever watched it.
How old are you? How old are you guys?
We're 28.
Okay, that's not that different. I'm 32. Maybe it's just more niche or something. But Bridget Jones's Diary is about a woman who decides to start journaling. And it's the whole movie revolves around her journal, and of course there's drama with like someone else can read her journal and what happens, you know. So after seeing that movie, I just thought that was so cool, and I think like that night or the next day I found a journal and I started writing, and I've kept a journal ever since. That's kind of my first memory, writing. But I have a lot of memories of childhood that revolve around writing. Like I would come up to my mom. I remember her sitting at her desk on her computer or something, and I was like, "Give me an assignment. Like pretend I'm a journalist." She's like, "Okay, you've got 30 minutes to write me a newspaper article about the European Union and the money, like the economy happening over there." And I was like, "Okay." And I ran away, and I'd set my timer to 30 minutes, and I got on Google, which was like the early days of Google, and used my computer, and I printed off an article and came back, and it was printed off with clip art or maybe internet photos, I don't know. And that was a really fun game for me. It was the challenge of give me a topic and I'll write you an article.
That's so cute. I love that. I love that. Yeah.
And it's that joy you're talking about, where there was no like, this has to be perfect, or this is a type of work or anything. It was just pure, like, this is so fun. It was like playing tag or a racing game. It was that adrenaline of like, can I do this?
Yeah.
And
totally
getting to learn. And I think also the joy of impressing my mom, because I knew that she would be like, damn, that's impressive. I was like, look what I did.
You're like, I know. That's cute.
Yeah,
awesome.
That's the first one that pops into my mind.
That's amazing. So I think it'd be great for you to tell one, and then let's go back to them, unless you're feeling
so curious. Yeah.
So, and go back to, if you don't mind, after she tells hers, come back to your inner child.
Yeah.
So I think that the most common thread throughout my whole life, even when I was really, really young, I remember like I've always loved drawing. I've always loved drawing people. Like people are so interesting to me, and trees. People and trees.
Cute.
And yeah, like I remember in kindergarten, like making pictures, and I think that's also like one of my biggest wounds too, was just the times where like one of my drawings was I was drawing in charcoal, and I was thinking I was in high school at the time, and it's actually one of my most favorite pictures I've ever done, because I put so much of my heart and soul into it, and my best work comes apparently when I'm sad. And I got charcoal in the carpet. And my dad came in, and I was a scapegoat for something, and he kicked it around, and it just fucked up my painting. I totally swore. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
And yeah, I remember that being soul crushing.
Yeah.
And I guess I bring this up because this was something that I lost for years, especially when I fell into this ego mindset of, having to get a corporate job and thinking that this was the right thing that I had to do and to be successful, and I couldn't pursue art for college. But then and then every once in a while, it's like every time I came back to myself, I found my art again. Oh my God, I just realized. So years ago, I did a painting of this little girl on a bed, and she's just like, kind of like kissing her teddy bear. And it just was that was my inner child.
Aww.
I always thought it was the little girl that I was going to have, but that was my inner child.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, I just realized that.
That's so sweet.
That's so cool. And so it's interesting. And then motherhood came, so that kind of fell off for a bit. But then this year, art has come back, and this playfulness has come back full-fledged. And So yeah, I think that's really interesting, and maybe
Yeah.
that might be an open discussion as well of like maybe what are the things that can affect and inhibit that remembering,
Mm-hmm.
and or how do you get back into that?
Right. Yeah. You should type that.
I got it in my head.
You got it? Okay, perfect. Good.
Yeah. But
Awesome. Beautiful.
Have you guys ever worked with the artist way?
no, what is that?
No. Cool. All right. So the artist way is a book. It's written by Julia Cameron, and I lead a book club of people who go through it. Sarah Susan, that one.
Oh,
It's a recovery process. So just like 12-step recovery, but it's for artists and creativity and spirituality. And that's why I get so excited about the inner child work, because essentially that book is not the only book that dives into it, but that's probably the most famous book.
Mm-hmm.
And it's known worldwide and used by artists. Most famous artists you've ever heard of probably went through that book, because it's a step-by-step, let's go back and reconnect you with your inner child who loves to play and create and figure out whatever's blocking them or whatever happened that blocked them, and we'll get you all grown up as an artist. The concept is that you got to grow up, like your body got to age, but your child, your artist child, may have been blocked and never got to do the full growing.
Wow.
So what we want is adults with mature artists inside of them, not artist children that were delayed in their growth, right? There's still like the childlike artist child, inner child that's always like a spirit that's in there, but that's very different than like a child that wished that it knows how to be an adult artist. Because the adult artist is the artist that knows how to make money, that knows how to publish, that knows how to get it out there, rather than just hiding it and wishing it knew how to create. And it's like learning how to be an artist as an adult versus a child.
fantastic.
The book teaches you.
I'm so gonna check that out. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, I think my child's like
a teenager.
My artist child, she's like a teenager. She's like, yeah, I got some cool stuff, but I kind of want to take some more art classes, and I kind of want to figure out how to be a boss and somehow make money out of this.
I would definitely say
totally
again, so I'm just a little anxious.
I would definitely say mine is just
exactly. That's exactly what it's like.
For sure. It's okay though. That is super interesting. I don't even like go into the artist like stuff, and so I feel like would be healing nonetheless. Because I took on some of my dad's interpretations of art.
Yeah,
because he's an artist. So I grew up with the memories, my fond memories of him in the art studio. I was there while he was doing art and seeing his work, and just empathetically, because I am an empath, so I was able to like read what he was going through. So that's always fun. So that's really cool. Thank you so much, and we'll definitely put that in the show notes for anybody that's watching this. That's an amazing tool. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing I could contribute to most people. Just read that book and do everything in that book. That's another thing. Like, I coach people through this, and it's very common that people read it, but then when there's like a task or an exercise or an assignment, they're like, I get the idea, I don't need to actually do it.
Yeah,
it doesn't work like that.
It doesn't. Like, I will catch myself being like, I get it. I could see what that task would do for me. And I almost skip it. And then without a doubt, every time I'm like, do it. And at the end of the exercise, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so glad I did that. That changed everything.
Awesome.
Even though it's usually because what you anticipate it's going to do for you is the surface level that you can already see. And actually doing the task gets you deeper down to the layer you couldn't see.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's so true. And I'm so called out on that too.
I feel like a lot of us are. And it's that exactly what you're talking about, where we have a tendency to just assume that we know because we know the surface level truth. And so it's a scapegoat, and it's less scary that way than to actually step in and go through that process.
Yeah.
So absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I would love to hear more about, your experience with inner children, plural.
Yeah, that's
Very
really
excited
cool.
about that. And then also, just in general, like, how, either if you want to point on the artist way, how it affected you, or you as an artist that just, we were speaking yesterday and just creation oozes out of you. And you gave me some awesome tips on kind of how to organize yourself when you have all these ideas and everything. Anything that you want to touch on or express or share about your journey as a entrepreneur and creative and artist coach, the platform is yours.
Cool. So before, about maybe 4 months ago, I just thought of myself as having one artist child, inner child. It's kind of like a vague entity, like a glowy orb feeling. You're just like, oh, like there's something warm and fuzzy inside. Let's call it a child. And I think it's really linked with memory. Like, you remember what it feels like to be a child. So you're trying to summon that feeling again. And then you create it as like a little personality inside of you so that you can have a relationship with it rather than it just being a feeling. So you can actually feel like you're spending time with someone. It's you're using your imagination is what's happening. You're pretending there's a child inside of you because there isn't actually. Like, your brain has matured and moved on, and now your adult brain is like, my imagination is powerful, and we can like take pieces of our memory to like create a little character that will make it feel like we're playing with a child. Because when we play with children, they bring us back into that energy, right? So it's the power of our imagination to have our own imaginary friend who is a child that is inspired by us. When I started doing IFS therapy about 3 or 4 months ago, it's internal family systems therapy, also known as parts therapy. And I'm seeing a therapist in that. And then I've also started deep diving into researching it, and I'm interested in training in it myself. That's when the feeling of the inner child multiplied into children. Multiple. That style of therapy is, you go inside and you explore around and you start to realize that there's a lot of parts that we're made of. Like, there's a part of me that on this podcast feels really comfortable talking about this stuff. And then there'll be another part of me that's more business minded, that would be thinking about, how would I use this to market my business? How am I being portrayed? How am I representing myself? And then there's another part of me that's like maybe more vain and thinking about like, how do I look? Or how am I presented? Or there's another part of me that's like, I don't really want to be doing this. I'd rather be getting a massage or taking a bath. Like, all those different feelings can exist at the same time. Mm-hmm. Like, you can be loving something for one reason and hating it for another reason. Mm-hmm. I can see that also in my work. Like, I'll be sitting at the piano and a part of me will be like, yes, I love playing piano. I'm expressing myself, and I'm an artist, and I'm flamboyant here, and I'm free. And another part of me is like, this is so boring. I'd rather be out in the wilderness or something. Like, I don't want to be sitting inside. Why are you sitting inside? It's a sunny day. And then there's another part of me that's really like a hard ass. And it's like, no, you need to like practice your scales, get better. You don't get to go play outside. You have goals, accomplish them. And like, it's all those voices in your head. And with IFS, it's seeing those voices and getting to know them better, so they actually start to take a form. Like, what do you look like? Like that bossy voice that says, practice your scales, you've got goals to accomplish. If I turn to it and I say, what do you look like? Or how old are you? Then it'll start to answer, because your imagination will start to give you responses. And so some parts of us are more adult-like, and some parts of us are more childlike. And if there's trauma or something happening at a certain moment in our life, we can have a part of us that kind of gets frozen at a certain age. And that's where we have these like children that were being creative and something discouraging happened, and then they shut down and kind of turned into this part of us that's afraid to create. So it's through this therapy where I started to explore and was like, oh, this is cool. I've got all these parts, and I've actually got like multiple children. In a sense, they're all me. It's not that they're really different, but they're different, but they start to feel more like a family. That's why it's called internal family systems.
Oh,
so
cool.
It gets really interesting, and it's a lot of visualization. And you imagine if you're in a room, like right now, the three of us are in a room together. If one of us left and there was just two of us sitting here together, it would be a different dynamic. And if a fourth person entered, it would be a different dynamic. And you see that in families, like if it's the parents with one kid versus if it's just one parent with the kid, like the relationships and the interactions and the energy in the room is totally different. So it's starting to learn that about ourselves. Like, what is it like when I'm in the room with the part of me that wants to be out in the wilderness and the part of me that wants me to practice piano scales? How do they get along? Do they fight? Or do they actually like understand each other? And can I find a way to get everybody inside of me to get along?
That's beautiful.
So that's kind of a quick overview of IFS therapy, and that's something I've been fascinated by recently. It's really helped me function better as a human, but also it's relevant to the inner child, because it's whenever you discover these little children inside of you, it's not just leaving them there, it's recognizing what kind of parenting they need, because they're still a child. And so then you get to be a parent to them. And even if you only had one inner child, you still get to be the parent to them. And the Artist Way book talks about that too. Julia Cameron is constantly explaining how you recognize what your inner child needs, and then you as the adult take care of that child. Like the child's begging you to let them go outside and play. So why are you sitting at a computer?
Yeah.
Like, get up and take that child outside. But also as an adult, you know that you need to sit at the computer. So then that's when you get into this parenting relationship where you're like, okay, we're going to play outside for 30 minutes and then we're going to come back inside. And you start talking to yourself like a parent and a child. And by treating it like a parent-child relationship, you can have more peace and get way more accomplished than if you're just sitting there in agony, like, why do I want to go outside, but I shouldn't go outside because I got to work and then I shouldn't work. The minute you make them like people, you can start actually, well, you know how to be in a relationship with another person. So it's turning the voices into your head into people that you can actually like work with. That make sense?
Cool. I love that. There's a similar thing that I've heard to what you just talked about that I learned about, which I feel like it's almost mirroring it. It's parallel to what you're doing with shadow work. The same thing where you like take your shadows, and once you recognize your shadows, then you give them a name, whatever it may be. So I have a people-pleasing Sienna, and I used to shut her down and shadow her and not pay attention to her. But once I brought her to the table, which is why I think about this, once I brought her to the table of like the parts of my personality that I really like and the parts of the personality that is shadow, once I brought them to the table, I was like, okay, well, what task can you have in my life? Then it started to balance out because I was still the head of the table, but I was giving them all tasks and kind of balancing out. So there's not that crazy dynamic in your brain like you're talking about. So I really like that. That's a cool difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In IFS, we refer to those shadowed parts as exiles.
Yeah.
So you identify that parts of you are exiles and parts of you are protectors. And that's usually how the whole system works, is that there's a part of you that realizes she's got her feelings hurt, so I'm going to do everything I can to make sure we don't feel that pain. I'm going to protect you from her. And so the therapy work is where you get to come in and you befriend the protectors.
Yeah.
So they'll eventually let you access the exile.
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably really similar to what you've learned, because all these different sciences and approaches and concepts and models that people are coming up with are all dealing with the same human body.
Yeah.
So we're experiencing the same thing and we're just calling it different things.
Yeah, isn't that cool? I love that. Yeah. So cool.
Yeah, it's really juicy stuff, and it's super relevant for when people are exploring their creativity. Like, to bring it back to your podcast topic, when people sit down to create, I see this a lot in the artists that I coach. They get blocked because they're so stuck in the adult mind and they don't know how to connect to that child. And what's happening is there's all these protectors in the way. Mm. And all the child is hidden back there. All the children are hidden back there, wounded and afraid. Mm. So it's using these different types of therapy methods, or the artist way, which is a 12-step kind of therapy program in the form of a book, that help people slowly, rather than just sitting there like trying to force themselves to be creative. They have to realize that there's a huge system, like there's a huge, like when they say they're blocked, there's a bunch of personalities and parts of themselves that are holding them together. So rather than trying to like smash through, they can like talk to them and slowly work their way through and eventually access what it is that they're trying to tap into, and then the creativity will just flow.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that. Been there before, for sure. Yeah, I love that.
So I guess for your own journey, what have you experienced personally in regards to like a situation where you've had to self-parent, or something that you've had to overcome? If you would like to and feel open to share.
My
also
probably a really big one.
Or if it's your roommate, hey.
Oh, that's a friend. So a really big one has been, well, now I'm a singer and I sing in public and I publish my music, and it's a joy. It's not a problem. But I used to be really blocked to the point where I wouldn't let anybody hear me sing. Mm. And I didn't really sing in public at all until I was like 26.
Wow.
So when people meet me now, they find that really shocking, considering that I'm so public about it now, and like all my music's on Spotify and I perform on stage, but it was completely blocked down, like throat chakra shut down. And it was really secretive. Like nobody even knew that I liked singing or music. So when I kind of came out of the closet and I was like, attention everyone, I really want to be a professional musician. even my mom was, and my cousins and my aunts and everyone were just like, I didn't know she liked music. And I'd spent my whole childhood in my car singing, like at the top of my lungs. But if anyone was in the car, or if anyone was in the house, I would like zip it. So in retrospect, I realized how much I had shut down. There was a fear of being seen, a fear of being heard, a fear of failure if I really like acknowledged what I wanted and went for it, that I might not be good. Like, what if I'm not good? I've never sung for anybody. I think I'm good. And then all of that issues of being good, and why do you need to be good? What does good even mean? So it got to a point where that was so painful to live that way that, and I won't go into the whole story. I actually have other places that people can find that story. If they're interested, they can contact me. But like the way that I broke through that really specifically. But it was a lot of painful, deep work to get to the point where I was willing to finally sing. And so sometimes it's kind of what we want, like that creative, the child wants so desperately to express themselves that they find a way. It's like kind of like a child running away from home. They so desperately cannot take the situation they're in anymore that something drastic happens. And then the reparenting part has come in, where um, I need to give a little more context. So when I was 26, I started singing, and I was shy, and I was nervous to sing, but I would do it. And I started singing in public more and more. And then I was out on stage. And then this year, 2020, during the quarantine, I moved in with my parents for 5 months, and my throat closed back up immediately. And I was also having this negative self-talk, because I was like, what is wrong with me? I've become like a singer in the public world, and now I can't sing again. Like, how have I gotten back to this place? So when I moved out of my parents' house in September 2020, I began the process over. And that's really where I've experienced this reparenting, because that's when I started doing the IFS therapy. That's when I went through the Artist's Way book again. And I realized, I don't know why, I still don't know exactly why, but there's a little girl that got her voice shut down, and spending time at my parents' house reminded that little girl to like come up. And so as an adult, I can go through my chakras and be like, is your root chakra, like, are you grounded? Do you feel safe? Okay, like, you've got your finances in order, let's move up. And I went chakra. By the time I got to my throat chakra, energetically, I had healed enough to be able to sing fully again. And I know I'm throwing multiple things out there, but it's because there are different ingredients in the healing process. Like, I'm going through the Artist's Way book, I'm doing the IFS therapy, I do chakra meditations, and it's like all of those things are looking at the whole system so that it can heal. And I want to tie it back to your question, which was my experience of the parenting the inner child, because that's how it is if you're parenting. You're not just feeding the child. You have to look at their diet and their food. You also have to look at their socialization and who are they spending time with. You also think about where they're going to go to school. You also have to think about what their hobbies and their talents are. Like, the child is so dynamic. You as a parent have to look at all of it. So doing that for my inner child, I'm like, am I getting the exercise I need? Am I getting the food I need? Am I hanging out with the right people? Am I reading the books? Like, is everything along the way putting me in a situation that will allow my voice to open up? Does that make sense?
Amazing. I am so appreciative of you just to share all that. So Sienna is a fantastic singer. Whenever she's over watching my child, she's like Mary Poppins, and she's just singing and it's such a joy, and I'm so grateful that my child gets to have you. And I personally, I resonate with so much of everything you just said. And I actually just started taking singing lessons back in October, and it's been helping me get more confidence, and I've been feeling my throat chakra open up more and more. And I actually started taking these lessons because I knew we were going to start a podcast, and not only did I want to learn how to sing, and I heard that that by the time you're 30, your vocal cords are
It was a motivator.
Are going to be more established, and that's not quite sure. It's, you have your 30s is where they get established. And so I was like, I'm 28. I got 2 more years to take singing lessons and find my voice. And so I felt that time pressure too. So I've had this really great transformation of starting to sing more and find more confidence in my voice, but then also my my ability to channel and to speak from my heart, my truth. And I've been moving just a big block between my heart and my throat chakra, and it's been really exciting. And right before you said about you living with your parents, I just visited my parents in Arizona the other week, and I felt the exact same thing. My throat is back to being closed, and I have a singing lesson tomorrow. And so, yeah, that's truthfully something that I want to investigate. And I so appreciate just all of those different mirrors of what I'm excited to tap into and to look into, and seeing those different inputs of, what are those dynamics when I'm with my family and when I'm not with my family, or when I'm with Sienna, or when I'm not with, or or when I'm just in my car and seeing what those inputs are. I'm so happy that we have you today as our guest, and I'm getting so much value out of all of your share and personal work. So thank you again for being.
I love that. I'm going to write it down before I forget that. Thank you for being here.
Well, I believe we should probably transition just for time's sake. And I guess we will be putting links and everything at the end for Cha Wilde. So you'll be able to find her and more of the information, and we're going to put all the links of what you've been talking about as well. So we're gonna, what's next on the agenda, my dear?
Yeah, I guess so the next thing we're going to be talking about is intention setting for 2021. But it just more just an open-ended reflection. But I guess before we get there, talking about our inner children, talking about creativity, the energy and the essence that is us. This is our unique signature. What creativity, what you offer and you put out into the world, either through your voice, the vibration that you put out, through a piece of art or color or music,
or just being,
just being just showing up in your day-to-day, the transmissions that you emit. You are, what are you emitting? You know, are you opened? Are you blocked? Do you? So
I would love to point really quick, something's coming up, a story that happened to me. So I'm very naturally, my child is like kind of like stardom. Like, I did want to be a famous singer. I love the stage. I very much love having the center of attention. I always have. And as I've grown up, I was picked on a lot as a kid. And so my friendship circle wasn't very stable until I got into like junior year of high school, where I found the stage. Drama geeks, they're my number peeps. But because of that, if I wasn't around people that I knew, I would then get shut down, and I would protect myself and just not do anything too crazy. But my natural being, if I am honest with myself, what makes me smile and what makes me feel light and in that space of truth, that's what I like to call it, is truth alignment, is to be silly in public and is to be goofy. And like, I'll be going like down the grocery aisle if I'm in a really good mood and really not having too many issues with the protection side. I'll be like dancing it down the aisle, or like my fiance won't find me because I'm stretching in the middle of the line at the grocery store, or like, you know, because I just don't care, because this is who I am. So something happened the other day that was really interesting, where I was doing Uber Eats and I went into a restaurant and I was waiting for the food. And I sat there and I heard a song come on, and I absolutely loved this song. And I just felt it. It was almost like a salsa dance. You're like, yeah, oh, yeah. And you can't help but move. But there was a couple other people like waiting, and their vibe was very much like in their phones, you know, like just kind of keep your own bubble, nobody like pay attention to me type of thing. And it was really hard for me not to imitate that, because that's what the group's doing. So obviously I need to do that to fit in. And if I move right now, then, oh, what's going to happen? And so I took a moment to check in, because I was like, well, what is going to happen? I might actually make one of those people smile or look up for a moment and be in the present. And that's exactly who I am. And that's exactly what I want to do. And so I just like said, screw it, and started dancing. And I slowly got into it. And then I was like really jamming, like in it to win it. And then I didn't care. I didn't even care at the end of that if they were looking or not, because it wasn't about them. That was just my key because I know that's the insecurity. That was just my key to unlock so that I could open myself up and just be. And so that's the reason why I was saying just be is important sometimes, you know?
Yes.
So yeah.
And just as you're talking, I'm so glad you shared that story. You make such a good point that I guess the way I see it, and we don't have to talk in terms of like energy or whatever, just in a very fundamental, logical way. If we have, several people around the world that feel happy inside, that feel joyous inside, that feel free and fearless to express how they truly, feel inside, and especially in those moments where they want to just expand creation and sing or dance or do a little jig or do yoga in an airport, like
been there.
Yeah, just that I love that, even you have no attachment to what they did, but the idea that you could potentially inspire someone else just by being your raw and true self to do that. And if we had, more and more people around the world that felt free and then didn't feel burdened by the fears or insecurities or those blocks that they've had throughout their life, and we would see a major energy shift and dynamic externally. And I was just going to say one last thing. We've talked about this before. It's just, your internal world. And this is what we're saying as you are a divine creator, your internal world projects outward and you create your reality, what you receive back too. And you inspire others and you affect others, and you are like a drop in a water and you just ripple out.
Yeah. Which I think works perfectly, that if you're wanting to set intentions for the future, then the real question is, which I feel like this is where we're all leading up to right now, is like, if you're wanting to set intentions for the future, it's less about the external intentions. I mean, of course, but like, what does that internally do for you? Like, where are you feeling aligned with that? Is that, so if I wanted to still be a famous singer, then like, does that feel right? Does that feel where I need to be? Okay, then take the action to do so. And and setting intention has to be first, okay, where is my true self? Which is why all that inner child work's so important, because how are you supposed to have the answer for where you want your creativity to spill out of you if you don't even know where it's coming from inside of you? So,
I'd love to speak one thing about the dancing in the supermarket.
Oh, go for it.
From the perspective of the inner child, that's where your inner child or you blended with that child is wanting to dance. And then you see that couple who's buried in their book or they're looking uncomfortable, and understanding that they also have that inner child.
Yeah.
And if you were a child, like a physical child, they might be a lot more open. And how often adults who are really stiff, they see a kid and then they get a little goofy. They're like making silly faces, and then they talk to an adult and they're back to being like adult-like.
Wow.
And I think it's because that adult feels safe with the child, because the child is the child. So it's like two children can connect, whereas the child within them felt shut down in some way by adults or by other children, or something was threatening. So that if you were to run into a child that reminds you of a child that was mean to you in your childhood, you might not be super playful with them. You might actually feel really uncomfortable around them. So it's like gravitating to the people where we feel safe. And so I just think it's really beautiful to not only think, if I'm my authentic self, if I'm being my inner child, I'm going to brighten this other adult's day, or maybe I'll make them smile. Like, that's the surface level. And then the deeper one is, I'm showing friendship to their inner child. Like, I'm a kid. You want to come out and play?
I love that.
And you might not reach them or see any difference on the surface, but the more people that they see being like that, that inner child will be like, maybe I'm on a playground and it's actually really safe to play.
Yeah.
But I think at the moment where we see the stiffness, it's because a lot of children are hiding inside of adult bodies thinking it's not okay to play.
Yeah.
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 I love that. Thank you.
I love that.
I resonate with that.
Yeah. You said key. It was like a key that helped you change your behavior.
Yeah.
So it's when we think as adults, I feel pressure. Like I'm an adult trying to cheer up another adult versus like, no, I'm just a kid and I know there's a kid in there. Like,
Yeah.
it takes all that pressure away and gets you on the level of like, you're the one acting weird.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to dance to that freaking awesome song right now? Come on, you know you're feeling it. Like,
Yeah.
that's very true.
And for anyone that isn't aware, there's something I've been really appreciating, especially about Bellingham, and I'm sure in Seattle too. There's just this conscious wave of like having events that are around being conscious. So ecstatic dances, maybe like acro yoga, and then, you know, other ceremonial kind of things or gatherings and festivals or whatever, where the intention is you don't have to do drugs and you don't have to drink to have fun and to be expressive and to tap into that playfulness and that joyfulness. And having these sacred places to go. I mean, I know with our pandemic right now, it's few and far between to be able to experience that, but when we open back up, I'm so excited to go to ecstatic dance and their full moon dances, and get back in touch with this sacred energy of people being their conscious selves and healing and moving through those blocks and those fears. And even when I'm in my car and I'm singing, and I'll still have those, like, oh, if someone's driving by, they see me singing, I'm like, I don't care. Okay, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
And it's always going to happen, but it's just that continual like regulation and having friends that you can be expressive around and that can hold safe space for you. Or even if like you're in a car and you're on like a road trip with someone and you're like, I'm going to sing. And I know that I'm not really in tune all the time,
But I'm going to do it.
and I'm half sorry, not sorry, but I'm going to do it. So naming it and just getting that insecurity and that sticking, feeling inside, just shifting that energy, I think is just a really powerful tool too.
Truth.
Totally. You've made me think of two things I'd love to share.
Yeah.
Okay. Piggybacking on what you just said about the car. When I was clearing my throat chakra and building the courage to sing, the first time, like when I was 26 and I was like, for the first time, I'm going to like come out of this closet. I made a hierarchy or a priority or intensity level, like a list of ways to sing in public. Like singing on stage with 1,000 people listening is high on the list. Whereas singing at the stoplight when I know the person next to me, that's still scary. It's still singing in public, but it's lower on the list. And singing in the grocery aisle, singing in the shower and I know someone else is in the house and can hear me. Like those are lower level, but they're still terrifying. And so I identified those as stepping stones. So rather than putting this big pressure on myself, like you got to just have the guts to step on stage, it's like, well, why don't you first master singing at the stoplight? And then we'll move up and we'll move up. My first time performing after that, I went to a nearly countryside road where a car would drive by maybe once every 5 minutes. And I sang on the side of the road with my guitar because I was so scared. And I was like, I can't sing on the street in the city busking. That's too much. People will hear me. But if someone just drives by in their car, that's just terrifying for me, but I can handle it. Let's do it. And people would go slow down and listen, and then they'd drive off. And so like, once I did that, then the next day I went to a busier street until I was actually on a street with people walking by. So for anybody that's, whether it's singing or any other kind of creative expression, identify what your vision is for what it means to do that thing, and then actually find out all the little ways that you could just integrate it into your life and figure out what your fear level or your tolerance level is. Like, where can you start that you're not going to totally freak yourself out? Like, okay. And it's also a volume thing. You can say, I'm going to sing in the shower. I know someone can hear me, so I'm just going to whisper, but tomorrow I'm going to sing a little louder, and then I'm going to sing a little louder. And you just realize every time you go louder that the world didn't end. And then you'll hit a point where you're like, actually, like, I'm just going to belt it. And then you belted it, and you might come out of the shower and either someone's going to say something like, that was awesome, I loved hearing you sing, which will boost your confidence, or they won't say anything. And again, you'll realize the world doesn't end. And then you're ready to take it on to the next challenge. So that's just like kids, right? Like, you don't learn how to write a novel right away. You learn how to write the letter A. So giving yourself the little tiny steps. The second thing I wanted to share was another layer to that, meeting the adults in the grocery store dancing. My husband and I go to a lot of festivals, concerts, and raves, and we are very active in the crowd. So we'll constantly be moving through the crowd, dancing with strangers. And part of the joy we get out of that experience is brightening people. Like, we'll see people standing there just staring at the musicians, and my husband and I will be like, let's go, like, cheer them up. And so we'll go over, and you get a whole like array. Some people see you coming and they're like, yay, new friends. And then some people see you coming and they're kind of shy, but then they're like, oh, they're friendly. And then you have some people that are like not into it. And that's when it gets really interesting, because if they're stiff and they kind of give you this signal, like, I don't want to dance, leave me alone. Sometimes people really mean that. And they like, you keep dancing with them, and then you're like, oh, I get it. Okay, bow out, leave you alone. And I usually am just like, I don't know what's going on in their life, but they're not ready to socialize right now. And but that's pretty rare. Most of the adults that are like, I don't want to dance, are just the little moody child that's like, I hate you, mom. And you're like, really? How much do you hate me? And you like poke at them, and then they start trying not to smile, and then finally they're like, fine, and then they dance. And then you realize that, like, if you had gotten caught in your insecurity, like, oh, they don't want to dance with me, and you'd given up, then that beautiful exchange would have never happened. But when you stay really rooted in, like, I know what I'm doing is a good, beautiful thing, and there's a person in there who would love to dance with me, so I'm just going to like hold steady and like keep looking them in the eye and being like, are you sure you don't want to dance? Are you sure? And then they're going to crack. And then you're going to like bond and hug it out. And they'll probably like hang out with you for an hour and then be like, thank you so much, I really needed that. And you're like, yeah, I know.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Right? But you can only deliver that experience to them if you go into it with the mindset of like, there's a person in there that wants to connect. And I'm going to be the North Star. Like, I'm not insecure. And if they don't receive my gift of connection, it's not about me. It's because they really are not in a place to receive that.
Yeah.
And then you move on to the next person and you're like, bye. And you go find someone else, because there's like 5,000 other people that are desperate to dance.
Yeah.
Like, they came to a show. So I wanted to raise my hand and share that one, because I think that's probably one of the most powerful lessons I have for humans, is that we all deeply want that connection, and we want someone else to go first. We want someone else to lead. So if you can find it in yourself to be the one who dances and goes up to other people and realize they are feeling insecure, and if you can just hold out steady and be strong for them, then you get to have that connection. Yeah.
Yeah, I like humble pride here. I can't
So
like
humble pride.
Yeah. Definition
is a term that we're both Leos. Of course, we created this. And when you want to be humble about something, but come on, you don't have to be prideful. You just give yourself some self-love. You deserve it. You deserve it because you're a queen. Humble pride.
Humble pride. Okay. We're continuing technical difficulties. That's okay. So, out of humble pride, I'd like to say that every single time that I've ever been in those really exciting moods and been in 100% me and gone and taken that person that's shy, because I totally was that person in high school that was going to all the shy, because I had all the guy friends, so I go to all the shy guy friends on the side and be like, come on, but through my life, I can't count how many people have come to me years later and been like, thank you for like being confident and seeing things like the way that you saw them, because it inspired me to like be confident and be in my own. And I'm like, really? Because I go through a lot of stuff. So it's funny because you don't even know that you're doing it sometimes, and what impact you're making on people little by little.
Totally.
Planting seeds. So yeah.
You have no idea what impact you have on people.
No.
And that's the beauty of life, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Side note, I'm gonna put this out into the world. We're gonna rave together someday. Also, we're gonna take Sienna to her first rave, because
yeah.
Oh my God.
She's
gonna
like,
have
That's important. It's really important to go to a rave.
Oh, I know. Just haven't happened yet.
Oh man, the way I've been getting by through this pandemic was like last night, staying up till 5 and doing a rave in my house. Has been literally that. Just like doing dancing, having like one friend over.
Yes.
And
I turn down the lights and I have a light whip and I dance in my living room with a light whip and I'm just like, look, I'm almost at a rave. And then I'm like,
I got my
keep it alive.
my belly dancing outfit on, and I've been borrowing Sienna's blue wig. I did like this like neon makeup, and we had like a UV light, and that was pretty rad.
Play.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, we should ask these questions.
Yeah. So, moving into some intention setting for 2021. We offer that this week, we're wrapping up the end of a year, the year 2020. And I truthfully, I took time for this. I cleared out my entire week to only focus on creative stuff, play, and reflection, and just really soaking into this time and preparing myself for this upcoming year. And so we just want to invite the audience and Cha as well into taking time this week to honor and reflect what came up for you in 2020, the growth that you've had, and maybe if it feels resonate with you. I mean, I'm sure New Year's Eve is going to be pretty low key this year. Maybe having a ceremony of releasing, as we were talking about in the beginning, releasing the past, and or something very specific in your inner being or outer life, a person, a relationship, whatever it might be that you feel that isn't serving you anymore, and that you're ready to take it to the next level. Or even if it's just this baby step that we've talked about before, like what little baby steps, what maybe one of these awesome resources that Cha's been offering during this podcast series episode, what's been inspired, what kind of action can you take? And I have some prompts that we can either discuss or I can just share. And this is something that I'm going to be bringing up in my women's group right after this. And so I used 3 years in regards to this intention setting, because the solar eclipse that we had last week, it was really around like what shifts, what are you trying to create over the next 2 to 3 years? And with our amazing abilities of reality creating that we have for our internal world and for ourselves, what also do we wish and hope for the collective? Because just a drop in the ocean, we are part of the collective. So I'm going to offer a couple of these questions. So what do you hope for or envision for the world for this collective over this next year in 2021? Maybe, and then if you'd like to write on that, think on that, pause the podcast, maybe take some time. And then I'm going to also say, yeah, next 2 to 3 years as well. And then the next question is, what do you hope for you over this next year in 2021? And then again, 2 to 3 years.
Awesome.
Yeah. Do either of you want to touch in on any of that as well, either in regards to ceremony or attempting to answer either of those questions?
I'll let Cha go first, unless she doesn't have anything. I can do it.
Oh, spotlight.
That's cool. I'm ready for it. I've been thinking about how dehumanizing happens. And dehumanizing can lead to things like genocide. It's the direction that we don't really want to go in, where there's more separation. I'm different than you, polarization, civil wars, everything falling apart. So the opposite of the unity, it's disunity. And so I'm really in favor of the unifying. And, I like that. And so when we're in, the political situation happening, just politically, culturally, parents, children, like all relationships, because it's all just relationships. It's relationships with countries, relationships with states, relationships with people and families on all these levels. Are the relationships, are they separating with the choices we're making, or are they coming together? And this concept of humanizing, dehumanizing, as we move apart, it's like seeing it as us and them or other. And maybe it's just the yoga teacher in me, but I'm just as much excited as I am about inner child. I'm excited about inner light and the namaste concept of there's a light in me and it's the same light that's in you. And to educate people on that concept is my own personal mission at the moment. It's like meeting adults and helping them realize they have an inner child, meeting humans and being like, did you know that we're the same on the inside? And they want to talk about politics. And I'm like, yeah, that's details. But on the inside, we're the same. And some people understand that. And some people aren't seeing that because they're seeing on the surface. So what I would wish for the whole collective is that there's more people seeing that, so dehumanizing doesn't happen, that we would stay like understanding the humanness in each other more and more, to the point where you'd be like, I disagree with you so much, but I see how much of a person you are. Mm-hmm. So I'm not about to kill you about it, even though this might drive me insane. Like, we got to find a different solution. And I've been reading the book called The Second Mountain by David Brooks, which is a beautiful book for people who are learning how to serve other people. And right towards the end of the book, he says that when you have people who are separate, the way that you turn them into one people is by having them build something together. So the example in the book, which is great, is there's a political leader, and he's there to mediate the leaders from two different countries that are disagreeing. And so they have their like political meeting over dinner and they're disagreeing. And before they leave the house, the mediator diplomat guy says, you guys are washing the dishes together. And so it's taking these political people that are so opposed, and suddenly they have to team up, and someone has to wash and someone has to dry, and they're humans. And so it's like looking at, there's a lot of stuff we don't agree on, but there's just basic human stuff that we can build together. And so that's the big vision, is how do we unite and see humanity in each other? And then the personal thing is, in the work I'm doing, how am I shining a light on the light? so people realize that that's inside, and then giving people opportunities to build stuff together. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I would just clarify my last statement with giving people opportunities to build something together can be as little as like when I'm teaching a yoga class, to have one of the things that we do is to have everyone team up to, in my yoga studio, I have a lot of rocks. So I have everyone, I ask them to build a rock tower before class.
Cool.
Which is great for getting their mind to be concentrated, but also if they have to do it together, then it doesn't matter what their political beliefs are, because just there in the yoga studio, they got to build something together. So that's a very small way to start.
So cool. Love that. Love that addition to your yoga class, by the way. Absolutely love it. So awesome. I do that with my child, like mindful practice classes. I do that same thing. I've done a couple classes of that, and I have these kids. I usually, because we'll have different ages, and I'll have I had this class I did with like 3 different grades, and I separated the grades because developmentally, when you're at like second to third or first to third grade, that's pretty big. So I took a drawing that I drew. I had really big drawings, 3 of them, and then I had each group go to that drawing and make a story together, and then color it together and have to communicate and like figure it out and everything. And it's so funny how quick you'll have like teams and like them coming together to create this masterpiece and everything. And it's the same exact thing. I definitely think that it should be something that I do. I believe that a lot of the stuff that I've made games of in my child mindful practice can very easily be an adult mindful practice class. It's just the same thing like you're talking about. We all have that inner child inside that's like, I want to play. Do you want to play? Maybe we could play together, So, yeah. I will quickly, because I'm actually just going to like piggyback off of yours, because I kind of had similar. I actually just recently, as I read to Senna recently, I just had gone on winter solstice and did a download of senses. So it was this amazing ritual where you take crystals that connect with your third eye specifically, or your upper chakras, and you make each one represent one of your senses. So clairvoyance, clairaudience, etc. And then you grab that one and you focus on that sense, and then you download whatever comes at that time. So a lot of the things that I got were about the collective in hearing. And the biggest thing that I got was connection, foundation, build that connection, be with those people, solidify like your meaningful friendships and everything, because this coming year is gonna be a big one, and it can either be unified or super duper rocky, and it's up to us individually to make the choices of which way we want to go, because we all have free will and we all have the choice to choose which way, one or the other. So my hope and the vision for the world over the next year and continuing forever is healing and balancing, accepting and loving one another. Like I read this quote recently that just perfectly explained it. It was, I can still, what was the first part of it? I can still, I don't have to like you to still love you. So there was more to the quote.
I can disagree with you.
Oh, I can disagree with you and still love you. And
I also don't have to like you.
Yeah,
I still love you.
Yeah. And it was like, it was so perfect because that's how I feel so much. And people, I'll be on my Instagram and I'm like, I love you, have a great day. And I really do mean it. And, you know, some people, because they have those shadows that they need to heal, will go very defensive and be like, how can you love me? And I resonate with that because I was there before. I've absolutely been there in my lifetime. Like in this lifetime, I've absolutely been there. But I've shifted to a point where it's like, no, I really do love you. And you've gone through your own journey, your own perspective, and you were meant to go through all of that. And sometimes I'm not going to understand at all any of it. And I don't have to. I still love you. Like, I don't have to. And that's the thing I think we need to like step into collectively is we all have, and we talked about this in another podcast, we all have a puzzle piece.
Yeah.
We all have one puzzle piece to the bigger picture. And some of us are hiding that puzzle piece because we are shamed and feeling like we can't show it because people are going to bash us for showing our viewpoint and showing our lessons we've learned. And so what I hope and envision for this upcoming year and this future is healing that dissonance and starting to be curious about the collective, be understanding and just being an open heart and open mind as much as possible, not being pushed around, but open heart and open mind. And yeah, and I just love what you said because you brought it kind of down action wise by saying like the way that we do that is by building. And I love that. And I think that just putting those two together is just so powerful. And then for me, what do I hope for this next year? I've got a lot of creations going on myself, and I guess on a smaller picture, I hope the same thing as I do collectively, where I'm just working on healing anything that is and letting go of anything that is no longer serving this upcoming year. Allowing myself to step out of my comfort zone and continue taking those baby steps, which is my mantra, by the way, baby steps all the way.
It is
all the way. So when you were talking like that, I was like, yes, girl, yes. Baby steps are the way to be. And some people do need to take those big leaps, but that doesn't mean sometimes we're going to take those big leaps in our lives and then fall back, and that just to not have that shame and to continue on forward.
Yeah.
I would say also for a lot of people, the big leap is taking the first baby step.
Truth.
Word.
Truth.
Word.
And it might feel really big. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Okay. I'll share what's coming through for me. So what I hope for and envision for the world over this next year and coming is something that's been really on my heart and mind and spirit lately has been the idea of sovereignty, of us individuals claiming back our power and realizing that we have all that we need within our own self. And we don't have to rely on anyone else externally, whether that be the government or your parents or a relationship. And you have, and you can embody that all. And your soul knows the map for getting back into that. And things don't happen to you. They happen for you. And anyway, I'm not trying to preach. I'm trying to say that, yeah, I envision people finding their sovereignty. And another part of this unity as well, I see and I'm observing and just loving over the past few years, more and more people and divine beings finding this blurred, the lines are becoming blurred in regards to like the masculine, feminine, having certain gender roles, having, very, very cut and dry rules of what you're supposed to be and how you're supposed to show up, and just saying, no, bye, Felicia. And embodying what is true for you and your soul, and being able to live and from a place of, I don't want to use the word authenticity, but right now that's what's truly coming through. And so, yeah, I love this unifying opportunity and light that is accessible to us. And yeah, maybe find that these lines become blurred and we find more and more union, and the dismantling of particular systems or patriarchy, that we're ready to find a more proper balance in our systems, in our world, in our interactions, in our relationships, in our community, in our country,
and our families.
Yeah. So I serve that purpose and embody that purpose internally as well. And I guess what I also hope for myself over this next year is to continue. I mean, I'm so inspired by the resources that you've given me tonight, Cha. I want to continue my journey of opening my throat chakra and really putting myself out there, being this little fish from a small pond. I'm in a big pond, and it's kind of scary, and I'm going to grow, but I'm really excited. And yeah, I hope for me over this next year to just, I got the Knight card. He's just this, we did a tarot reading yesterday. And yeah, may I just continue on fearlessly, and maybe they'll make mistakes, maybe there'll be setbacks, but may I continue, may I take each step. And the idea of beingness, I love that. There's a mantra that my teacher, one of my teachers, brought to me into my life, of I am being here more and more. And I feel that. I feel like each and every day that I live in this time and space, in this 3D realm, I'm finding myself, more my spirit, more room, and I'm being here more and more, and embodying that. And yeah, I hope for me to continue that, and for Earthlight to grow. And this is something between those two questions. This is a co-creation with the divine, with our collective. And this is, I just put my whole heart and soul and energy into hoping that this is a unifying experience for people. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing all of your hopes for yourself and the world and the collective, and witnessing mine. And
yeah,
that
was beautiful. What a great way to end, y'all.
Yeah, I guess, is there any other, we should ask her question, and then we'll do some final shout outs.
Oh, okay. Sure. I feel like all your, I mean, if you feel like there's anything else that you're feeling called to
share with our Earthlight
community, please do. And if not, then we'll just end this.
No, she's got something.
I always have something. An invitation. I would like to invite anybody, both of you and anyone who's listening, to contact me to set up a call, like a Zoom call or a phone call, to talk about artist coaching. And that call is like, we can talk for like 20-30 minutes, and that's totally free. And just if someone else feels called based on anything I've said, then I'm super open to receive and be here to help people. So I just want them to know that's available. And they can do that by going to my website, chawilde.com.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Yeah. Thank you.
And yeah, do you have any other messages in regards to, like, this is your spirit, your channel, your message to the world?
Breathe.
Yes.
So true.
Wonderful.
Hmm.
Okay, so yeah, some final shout outs. Again, yes, you can find Cha at her website, chawilde.com, and that's www.chawilde.com. And we'll have her Spotify, her website, her Apple Music, YouTube, and Instagram links in our description, so you can check that out. And also I wanted to just give a quick shout out to my new work that I just posted last week on our Earthlight Cafe podcast on YouTube channel. I created a sub channel for my own offering. So it's Senna's Earthlight channel, and it's going to be a series on energy deprogramming, energy regulation, and spiritual ascension. And if any of that resonates and you're like, what are those words? I created a video explaining what those are. So go check it out. Again, we'll have the links down below.
Awesome.
And what about you? Do you have anything you want to share?
Yeah, I'd love to shout out. I am talking about baby steps in the present sense business that I have on the side as well. I am finally diving into one of my passions, which is creating personal guided meditations for people. So if you feel called to that and you want to work with me, then we'll leave a link down below. But essentially, we're just going to have a chill conversation. I'm going to get to know you, type out some key words, and then like ask a couple questions and pull cards. And then I just create a meditation from 5 minutes to an hour to whatever you feel called. And it's a sliding scale. So please contact me if you want to know more information.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And I just want to say a big thank you to Cha Wilde, our guest today. Again, thank you for being here.
Thank you guys for being. Thank you.
It's been an honor and pleasure having this first guest on our show.
Yay!
And just so excited to see where this flourishes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we're
All
good.
right.
All right, let's go.
And thank you to our listeners, and have a wonderful rest of your year.
Truth.
We'll see you in the new year.
And breathe.
And breathe.
Bye.